Our studded group of professional athletes behind me. Jamel Hill from ESPN is going to lead the discussion for us. After that, we're going to break out into groups. You're going to do two 30-minute sessions, one with Rise and one with Athlete Ally, and then we're going to get back together and discuss what we learned. So without further ado, please welcome Jamel Hill.
All right, we don't have a lot of time, so when I introduce everybody, I'm not going to give you the full scope of their bio, just a line or two, so if they look familiar but you can't place them, you'll at least have some kind of reference point. Starting first with Brendan Aiyemideo. Nice to see you. Good to see you. Former NFL player, played for the Ravens, Super Bowl champion, UCLA alum for all the Bruins in the house right now. We have Colin Martin, who is a midfielder for Minnesota United. Jay Williams, my colleague, former Blue Devil, awesome analyst. Nico Willett, who is a javelin thrower for USA Track and Field, and Ryan Mundy, who is also a former NFL player. So I'm not going to pick on you, Brendan, first. I'm going to pick on Ryan. Why don't you all, each one of you, talk about what level of responsibility you feel athletes, be it in college, professional, bear in terms of being active, being vocal, taking their role beyond just their sport?
Well, I guess I'll break the ice. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming out. I think, with the context that we live in today, right, where everything is in a news cycle 24/7, and athletes, entertainers, we have this platform called social media, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, whatever. And we all enjoy talking about what we ate today, what shoes we have on, what watch we're wearing, but the way I look at it is none of that matters. And we have to start thinking about what our legacy is, and we have to use that platform to actually make a difference, and really understanding in a greater context of what that means, right? Businesses want to connect with athletes because of our social influence. I think we look at the term influence and we're misusing it, or we're not understanding the gravity of it. And it goes back to like, oh, well, let me post what I'm wearing today, or where I'm going today, or what shoes I have on. But that doesn't matter. Start using your influence for good, and you'll really and truly unlock the power of the platform.
Okay.
Sure. I think within the context of how it pertains directly to you all in the college realm, the student athlete realm, I think you guys are inherently leaders on your campuses, and people do look to you not only because they see you in headlines on weekends, right, but also because you guys are so present on campus. So if you're thinking about it in terms of college campus specifically, understand that there is gravity to your status as a student athlete, and that you do have a lot more power than you may believe, such that by the time you leave, that might be when you're like, oh wow, I really did have an impact. Oh wow, I really did. And I think that's been happening to, I graduated in 2014, that's been happening to me over the years. So as it pertains to the student athlete on college campuses, you guys do have a really important platform and a lot of responsibility that does come with that. I know you've been told that since your inauguration as student athletes, but it is certainly true, especially as it comes to social justice issues.
Thanks everybody for being here. Steady wins the race all the time. And one of the things that I've learned being a young black male in the media space, working with Jamel, is that I am constantly put in situations where I have a chance to speak my mind. Now, I will not speak my mind all the time on every single platform, but I will constructively go back home and ideate how I want to send out my message. I think when you are an athlete, you are naturally a disruptor. You disrupted everything from the time you were in grammar school, high school, now that you're in college. You're not doing things the way normal people do them. So if there's a message that you feel after working with your board, if you're able to establish a board, 3 or 4 people that you really trust and you can run ideas through, I think that you inherently have the obligation to the younger athletes to talk about things that matter. So if you are utilizing your social media platform, it's imperative that you are able to articulate yourself. You are able to express what you feel. But I would advise everybody to make sure that you have a board to run things through people who are older than you, maybe people that you want on your advisory board, to talk through how you want to do that first, so you can understand what the repercussions are or whatever may happen after you do such a thing.
I'd say that you don't really know how much of a platform you have until you give yourself a chance. Like last week, for example, I had 1,500 followers on Twitter. I didn't think my message was important. I didn't think really anyone cared that I was gay. So I came out last week on Twitter. And I didn't think people really cared. You know, there was people before me. There was Robbie Rogers. There's been athletes before me, but I think you don't really understand how important some of the things you have to say until you put it out there. And obviously, it's important to curate how you're going to put that out there and be cognizant of how people are going to receive that. But yeah, you guys are important, and what you have to say is important. So take that to heart.
And just for reference, Mark Collins is only the second player to come out during his MLS career. So Robbie Rogers, as you mentioned, was the other.
Good evening, welcome. Thank you guys for coming. I think this is very important that we all get together, and if you look across the room and you look and you see everybody in the audience, you see everybody in the stage, you see a diaspora of people, a wide array of people. I think the message that we all want to convey more than anything when it's all said and done is that we don't want you to see sexuality or gender or race. We just want you to see us as people, as human beings, that we all care about each other. So as an athlete, first and foremost, what do I care about? It's not even being an athlete. You guys as an athlete, what should you care about? It shouldn't really necessarily be your athletics, but it should be, you know, what country are you from? What is your religion? What is your identity? What makes you who you are? Because if you've been playing a sport since you were 5 years old, all you identify with is as a football player, or a basketball player, or a track athlete, but you're so much more than that. So figure out what's important to you. And you know, when I think about UCLA, I think about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Arthur Ashe, Jackie Robinson, a lot of different names, a lot of females as well. And that's what enticed me to go to UCLA, to have that platform to follow suit of athletes that were trailblazers, that were trendsetters. So I think, you know, the most important message for you guys is to think about who you are aside from your sport, and then now that sport's gonna give you a platform. And now, you know, I was talking with Taylor earlier, and there was messages that we've been talking about, well, I've been talking about since 2009, but other Americans have been talking about since Loving versus Virginia. And it's the same message, and then you talk about equality just in general, like if I get pulled over by a police officer, am I safe, am I gonna be okay? Sometimes I question it, so I try to drive really safely and abide by the rules, but, and those are all still the same messages, and the overbearing message is equality. It's not about sexuality, religion, color, gender, it's about equality for everybody. So if we all don't have it, then no one has it. And it boggles my mind that today we're still talking about equality, and we've been talking about it in this country for a long time.
Well, part of the reason we're talking about it is because as much as we all like to pretend we're all on the same message of equality and pretend that that's what we're all here for, once you do a little dig deeper, excuse me, you'll find out that when it comes down to it, people aren't always on that same, you know, message. And I think for a lot of athletes, they wonder if they get into this space of speaking out, what does that sacrifice look like? And just to give you guys an idea of how everybody isn't on the same message, I went back to look at a few polls that were done during the Civil Rights era. Now, a year after the March on Washington, Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, 66% of Americans had an unfavorable view of Martin Luther King Jr. 66%. The American National Election Studies, they did a poll about what people thought about the civil rights protests, and 57% of Americans believe most black people's actions during these protests were too violent. Another 63% thought that the civil rights movement was moving too fast. So even when it seemed very obvious that we should all have been on the same message, it wasn't quite obvious to everyone. So Brandon, I want to start with you. If you're an athlete and you're desiring to get a message out, to be vocal, to be heard, Jay mentioned the term, you're a natural disruptor. Can you be effective knowing that there will people that will see you as a disruptor and not in a positive way? Like, how do you push through with a message knowing that you will face more than likely a considerable amount of opposition?
Yeah, and I think that's delicate, and I think that it takes a lot of thinking, a lot of planning, because there's people that are going to receive your message, like Colin Kaepernick's message, and they're going to say that, no, you're disrespecting somebody, but no, I'm just holding this country accountable for what it promised everybody in this country. And obviously you see where that's gotten him. So you have to be willing to make the sacrifice first and foremost, but how important is it to you? Because that's why I proposed the question to you, is it what comes first? Is it your family? Is it your religion? Is it your race? Is it your gender? Is it equality? Is it what? Because those are all things you are before you're an athlete, but then again, we tend to put being an athlete before all of those things. Is it your freedom? Is it freedom of speech? So if there's something that's near and dear to you, so for me in 2009 when I published an article about marriage equality, it was that important to me, because when you tell two same-sex couples that they can't get married, and then all of a sudden Britney Spears can go to Vegas and marry somebody in a day and have more rights than some of my friends that have been married for 10 years, that have been in a monogamous relationship, a same-sex relationship for 10 years, and they don't have the same rights as Britney Spears that annulled their marriage 24 hours later, then there's something wrong. So I was willing to sacrifice everything for equality, but not only was it for that cause, it was for every equality cause that was out there. So, you know, I respect Colin Kaepernick and everything he's doing. I think he did it the right way. I think he's doing the right thing. Yeah, he made some stumbles along the way, but his overall message is a message of equality and equality for everybody. So just, if it's that important to you, think about what your sport's doing for you. What's it going to do for you in the future? Who is your sport really benefiting? Is it benefiting you, or is it benefiting the school? You guys are for some of you guys, you're at the biggest earning potential of your life. The school's benefiting from it. You get a place to sleep, you get an education, but what are you going to do with it after that? So there's so much more you have to accomplish, but don't let the things that aren't going to be with you for your whole life affect what you're going to do for your whole life, the duration of your life going forward. But at this young age, I understand there's a lot of important things. There's a lot of things to accomplish, a lot of things to achieve, a lot of things to experience, and you guys should do all of those things. But it's just the time and the climate that we're in right now. Take advantage of the opportunities in who you are and really what's important to you.
Colin, since you just made the decision to come out on social media, talk about what went into that decision. Why did you feel like now was the time where you needed to make that announcement?
Yeah, well, to be honest, I've had a love-hate relationship with social media. I've never been a big social media guy. It's taken me a while to be comfortable enough to put myself out there on the platform. And for a lot of you, maybe you're the same as me, but maybe social media isn't for you. And that shouldn't stop you from standing up for what you believe in and pushing for equality in different areas in your life. But I don't know, what really made me ready, it's hard to say. But I mean, the fact I'm the only gay out athlete in the 5 major league sports is pretty crazy today, just to think about that. Like, there's gotta be some more of us out there. And for me, just to be open and just tell people just that simple fact, I think that goes a long way.
Now, what was the response like?
Overwhelmingly positive. Yeah, I mean, my teammates have known for a while, my family's known for a while, so they love and support me. But obviously, taking that step into the public is a whole new challenge. But nothing but love. Like, seriously, there's nothing to be ashamed of or nothing to hide, and people are going to support you and love you, and that's what's important. So.
Anika, you had a different experience, just in the sense that you come from a family that's been very supportive of you, and all your sisters are all out, correct? Sharing that story, what do you think that added to the conversation in talking about out athletes, given what your family background is?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing and why I was compelled to kind of tell my story is I understood, and again, especially with the political climate being what it is, I understood that I was coming from a place of great privilege. I am the youngest of 4 girls. We're all gay. I grew up in a family knowing that I was loved and supported, and I never once had to question my sexuality. Never had to wrestle with it. Never had to bear a burden of a deep secret. And feel ashamed for being my authentic self. So I think growing up in that environment allowed me to experience an upbringing as a gay woman that it is rare, and that's unfortunate that it is as rare as it is. But I felt compelled to kind of share that story because without that being public, I don't think that we can aspire to that being the norm, you know. So I think similar to Colin, I certainly wasn't out on social media necessarily, just because it was always who I was. I didn't feel the need to add to that conversation until, you know, seeing some really hateful and hurtful things in the last couple of years. I have no right to live in my privilege, I guess. I wanted to be able to share my story so that, you know, people who are struggling with that story or with their sexuality can look to that as kind of an example for, okay, there are good people, we can be equal and inclusive moving forward.
Jay, you said a moment ago that being that you're at obviously the most visible sports network in the country, maybe in the world, if you want to put it that way, there's a lot of pressure on you anytime Colin Kaepernick comes up or a discussion about police brutality. There's a lot of pressure on you to be a spokesperson and be a voice. So how do you select which issues that you're going to lend your voice and your activism to?
Well, I pick which spots I think can have the most impact, depending upon what show I'm going to go on, and what show gives me the best visibility and how I want to make that point. I think the beautiful part, my dad told me something that was so pertinent for me when I was younger, and living in New York City, you kind of pay attention to it. He's like, son, there's a lot of sheep out there. And when he said that to me, I was like, what he means is there are a lot of people who just choose not to listen or choose not to have a voice, and they just put their head down and just go along the status quo. They're just doing what they do. They don't want to be anybody else's business. They just want to handle their thing. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to be a sheep. I refuse to be a sheep. And you know, my story is a little bit different because I got into a really bad accident when I was 21 years old. I didn't get a chance to have a 13, 14 NBA career, you know, and it's a mistake after hitting a utility pole going 75 miles per hour on a motorcycle that I shouldn't have been on, that people like to throw my mistake in my face. The same way they like to throw other things in other people's faces when they try to stand up for what they believe in. And my thing is, I love when you own your own narrative. It is the most powerful thing you can ever do in your entire life. Because nothing that anybody else can say can affect you or can hurt you. They can't throw you off your rhythm. It's like you're hot in a game. So when I come out and I say, you know what, like I couldn't walk for a year and a half, or I had no functionality in this part of my body for 2.5 years, there's nothing you can say that can hurt me because I'm saying it about myself, right? And it also opens the door to other people to express themselves. And I said earlier about being steady, is that when people come at you with negative things, because that's the age we live in today, where everything is met with anger and venom, and they just want to say hurtful things just to see if they can get a response. And the more you engage in those type of people with intellect, and you say, why do you feel that way? They can't even answer those questions. They're basic intellectual questions you ask people back when you engage. And I think that's what helps empower me in those type of conversations. When I do choose to speak about them, when people say hurtful things, I'll just repost and say, why do you feel that way? And people can't respond. And then the crowd will do the rest for you. So understand the platform you have and how to use it.
Ryan, for you, what was it that made you decide that you wanted to kind of use your platform for something bigger and broader? And sports is very, I think, specific in this place, is that there's not a whole lot of things that Americans do together. Sports is one of the few things that we all do together. So what is it about sports and how you wanted to use it to do something more than just, quote unquote, be an athlete?
Yeah, I really realized the power of the platform after I retired from the NFL. I retired in the summer of 2016, somewhat abruptly, and was thinking about what my next phase of Ryan Mundy would look like. And so I just wanted to start to talk to people in the business community. And what I did was literally shoot cold emails to folks, whether it was on LinkedIn, shoot them a cold DM on Twitter, just literally reaching out to folks and saying, hey, I would like to have a cup of coffee with you and discuss what you do for a living. And then the light really clicked on because my hit and my response rate was almost 90% on just cold emails. But in the subject line, I was putting Ryan Mundy's Chicago Bears. And that's where I realized that, you know, we have something as athletes. People want to connect with us. People will listen to us. People will have a cup of coffee with us. So if something's on your heart, something's on your mind, you have an idea, share it. Find somebody who you want to talk to. There's nobody that should be out the realm of your possibility or your reach. And that's really how I approach it, and that's when I realized that there was power in the platform. And as I continued down that path, I started to realize, well, okay, I want to get into finance and investments, and started to get into early stage technology investments. So the next thing I did was I Googled African American venture capitalists, came back with a handful, and realized that, you know, the diversity and inclusion and equality that's within this space that powers everything that we do, every app on our smartphone, Snapchat, Instagram, all that, is pretty much created by folks who don't look like me. And all these conferences and panels and everything else that I go to and I sit on, I'm the only person that looks like me there. So I'm very passionate about, one, funding minority entrepreneurs, but then two, being a catalyst and using my platform to support that message as well.
Now, as a former athlete, were there certain, I don't know, stereotypes that you noticed or didn't, or you could just feel that you had to face getting into a finance and tech space?
Yeah, 1,000%. You know, the dumb jock narrative, because they'll have the cup of coffee with me, but they may just be interested in talking to me about what is Jay Cutler like, or what is it like to win a Super Bowl, or what is it like to beat the Ravens in a big game. But yeah, it's you know, it's an art of conversation, right? So understanding, okay, I have this value prop, this asset that'll get me in the door, but I need to pivot that conversation. So now, yeah, I could talk to you about NFL for maybe a minute and a half. But then I'm going to start talking to you about go-to-market strategy. I'm going to start to figure out like what type of synergies, business synergies that we have. You know, what's your operations? We could talk P&Ls, all this other stuff that I had to start preparing myself for so that I could have sustainable conversations. So it's one thing to have a platform, but then it's another thing to put in the work to prepare yourself to deliver beyond and on top of that platform as well.
Now, Brendan, your sort of entry point into activism, if you will, was from an ally standpoint, because as you mentioned, you wrote an article about marriage equality, and I'm sure a lot of people didn't expect that. And because a lot of times with Black athletes, they immediately expect the discussions to only be about race. So why did you decide that you felt like your most powerful tool could be as an ally for this particular cause? Because I'm sure you faced a lot of stereotypes about why people thought you did it, and I'm sure people question your sexuality and that kind of thing. So how were you able to say, hey, I'm gonna have the courage to do this, and this is gonna be my cause?
Yeah, so I think the catalyst was, you know, when Obama was running for his first term against McCain, and Obama kind of straddled the fence. He didn't say if he was pro-marriage equality or if he was against it, but McCain took a hard line and he said, I'm against it. So I respected and I got his opinion. I'm like, okay, well, I know I'm not voting for you, but so that was kind of the catalyst. Around that same time, Britney Spears went and got married, and she got a note. So I wrote an article in Huffington Post about marriage equality in 2009. But really being from, you know, my mom is Irish American, so she's 100% white, blonde hair, blue eyes, and then my dad is 100% Nigerian, and so they couldn't be on two different spectrums in the way that they looked in their genealogy. So, and then I came out this caramel macchiato complexion, and so with Loving versus Virginia, there was a time where different races, they couldn't marry each other. So now marriage equality is out, and how you're saying that you have to be the opposite gender to get married, and so it struck such an accord with me. I'm like, man, it's the same cause. So I did have a dog in the fight, and it was near and dear to me, and so I was willing to do everything I could for it. So I donated tickets to Raven games when we go and beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. I invited the community to come out and watch a free game on me, and then that rubbed a Maryland delegate the wrong way, and he wrote an article to my boss saying, you know, tell Brendan to be quiet, cis and deceased. He can't talk about marriage equality, and then the whole cause blew up. And really, once again, it was the athletic platform, the voice that I had to curate the message, to curate the narrative for something positive. And then Maryland was the first state to have marriage equality on the ballot and to pass it. So that was a tremendous, a huge undertaking. So it's one of those things, if you're going to use your voice, you have a powerful voice, you have a lot of eyes on you, make sure you're using it for the right things, because as much as people are going to applaud you for the good things, they may or may not be front page news. The second you do something bad, guess what? It's going to be front page news. So that was kind of the dog in the fight that I had, was equality for all, and these topics are front and center today with what's going on with immigration, with women's rights, and so many other things that are happening in this country today, and of course some of the brutality issues that we're seeing as well, even pay, equal pay and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, there are a lot of athletes who want to get involved, but maybe being vocal and being out front may not be their calling necessarily. So, and Nico, I'll start with you. How can athletes be better allies, or be good allies?
Yeah, great question. How can athletes be better allies? I think that ultimately, wherever you're coming from, it has to be a place of authenticity, right? So if you don't believe in a cause, don't tweet about it. You know, to your wits' end, don't try to back something that you don't genuinely believe in, because I mean, as we've all said, right? If someone comes at you, do you truly believe in this? Are you willing to defend it? Are you willing to kind of confront people about it, right? And I think on issues of equality and inclusion, those are fairly baseline, especially for athletes to wrap their head around as to why they're important. So when it comes to being a good ally, understanding that if you were in someone else's position, right, and they may not be included on basis of race or gender or religion or sexuality, whatever it may be, if you can put yourself into their shoes, if you can empathize, which we are lacking seriously as a country lately, if you can put yourself in someone's shoes and say, hey, if I was being excluded or discriminated against from the sport that I love due to X, Y, or Z, how did it make me feel? And I think that as we can empathize, that can only create better allyship. So ultimately, if you don't believe in it, it's going to be really difficult to be a good ally. But if you empathize, if you can relate to someone's story or someone's struggle, or at least try to, you are in a great position to become a better ally. And if you struggle with that too, having conversations and hearing people's stories is really empowering. And I think that's what Athlete Ally has been trying to do with kind of creating these platforms for us to tell our stories. Stories are a great way to connect with people, and you guys know that if you read Players Tribune as well, but stories are a great way to kind of empathize, create that empathy, and in turn create that allyship.
We have to wrap up. That seemed like that was very fast. I know we could talk about this much longer. There's so many different issues, need to be discussed and talked about. But Brendan, I'll start with you. Just as a final takeaway for many of the athletes in the audience, a lot of people struggle with what should be step one if they want to either be a better ally or a better activist and learn how to kind of use their platform in the powerful ways you guys have. So what is some advice that you would give them, and I want each of you to give a piece of advice that would be a good step one if they want to enter into this space?
Yeah, I think if there's things that you care about and there's things that you want to talk about that you care about, or maybe even you don't care about them too much, but there's just people that you support. So for example, my favorite person to follow on Instagram is Gymnast Jay. Jay's a gay black man, he's an acrobat. So he does pole dancing, he does acro, he does all kinds of things. And so when I comment on his social media, I'm like, damn, Jay, you're wearing the shit out of those heels. Or damn, Jay, you look good in them jeans, or whatever it is, but I'm just showing my support. And then people see the blue check by my name. They say, oh, Brendan Algedejo, the blue check. Man, he's commenting something like that on a gay man's page. And maybe it makes people wonder, maybe it makes people think certain things about me or whatever, but most importantly to me, I'm supporting one of my friends, and that's Jay. So you guys can do the same thing. Everybody's got a gay cousin, a gay aunt, or a gay uncle, or whatever it is, or a gay friend. Don't be afraid to comment on their social media because you think someone's gonna say, oh, I'm commenting on someone's page that's gay. Show that support, show that love, and that's kind of the entry level way to show support and to be an ally. Just say something nice, support your friends that are doing just different things on social media.
very simple. Just be a good teammate. You know, you guys are all teammates out here, and you don't know what your teammate's going through, what their sexuality is, what their religious views are. Like you don't know, and so just be a good teammate and offer an ear. Listen to your teammates and be there for them if they want to open up to you. I know, same thing. When my teammates ask me how my date went the night before, I love that shit. Like that means a lot to me, you know? Like when they ask me like, yeah, anything, like personal stuff. It makes me feel like one of the boys, like one of the guys. So just be a good teammate and show support for everyone, for who they are. So.
I would just say, don't be a sheep, like I said before. I think prime example, obviously you guys are both at USC and UCLA. How many of you guys have actually sent out a letter or an email to either school alumni? Has anybody? Have you sent? Okay. So here's something, right? Because I don't think a lot of you guys think about what you want to do or how you want to activate your own voice until you're out of college or it's all over. So if I go to school at UCLA or if I go to school at USC, I'm automatically scrolling or Googling who are top alumni in respective fields that I can start forming my own board with. That I can start, if that's an elite athlete, because look, I'm a Duke basketball player. If some kid reached out to me who was playing at Duke, I'm going to take that call. I'm going to take that email. And I'm going to help advise him on, hey, maybe there's a way I can help you. Maybe there's a way that if you have something that you want to get out, I can help you get out. I think you guys have a lot of power that you don't utilize yet because you're too focused with your head just being down. So as you are thinking about all these other things and how your voice, think about how you want to activate your voice as well. How you can amplify that, how you can properly vet what you want to say with the right people around you. Now those people can be at your respective schools as well. But I think there is an alumni base for you guys to tap into that can just not help you with that, but can help you with a lot of other things in your life as well.
I would just say, I'll get a little cheeseball here, but love each other, you know, and I think that, you know, through divisive times, right, understand at the very baseline of everything, equality matters, inclusion matters, the person sitting to your left or your right matters, right, and so understand that as an ally, you could do, you know, very little as long as you're just including someone or just being kind and being a good human, you know, and I think especially, excuse me, as it comes to supporting each other on campus, other teams, whatever that may be, if you guys have pride nights, attending them, and really just trying to be present and be a body for allyship, for inclusion, for equality.
Well, it's tough going last. I'll just great comments here, but I would just end with use your time wisely, because I'm sure if you ask any one of us sitting up here right now, we can literally remember when we were 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. It feels like yesterday, and time goes very quickly. So with that in mind, think about your legacy and what you want to accomplish on this world, because time is of the essence, and always view situations and scenarios and relationships from the standpoint of what am I becoming, not what am I getting.
All right, well, I think this panel certainly deserves a round of applause. So, thank you guys. Thank you all for sitting attentively and soaking this all in. Of course, there's some more to come from this event, so I will now pass it over to you.
Just give them another round of applause. So on your name tags, you all have a number. There's 4 different breakout sessions. Number 1 is here, number 2 is over there, number 3 is right outside the door, and 4 is down the hall a little bit.